There you go.
Oh, really?
Yeah, you're good. You're good.
3, 2.
No, I think you already gave me the
Oh,
go ahead. What do we watch tonight? It's just like I'm thinking.
Sophie's choice.
Yeah, all I'm
No, wait.
thinking of, I'm just thinking of Stingo.
Stinker.
Stingo, yeah. I remember that after when it came out in the early 80s, late 70s.
Early 80s.
I've never seen it since then, and I remember that from the first time. So welcome. We are going to do an analysis of the very long films, Sophie's Choice. And let's start identifying the 4 through lines. So overall story.
Sophie's Choice.
Yes, that's the title. I think we need something a little more descriptive. There certainly is.
Everybody on that?
No.
No.
Yeah.
Anybody want to go?
Friendship of 3 outcasts, or no?
I'm not really sure what the
Ill-fated
overall
people.
story is. I don't know how to.
I think it's
I don't know
about
how to describe it exactly.
Yes.
seems to be a lot about becoming best friends and friendship.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
I mean, here's the thing. It's hard for me to describe it without bringing in some structural points, but it's just, it just seems like everybody's trying to either escape from their past or hide their past, or.
well, I think you could probably qualify it more like it's a story of an unconventional threesome.
Okay.
And it's a love triangle,
Right.
but it's unconventional because of the fact it's got so many dimensions to it, as opposed to just being about love. It's also about sort of the romance thing and jealousies and stuff. So I'm just going to put unconventional threesome.
Because threesomes are conventional.
Well, I suppose they can be. Oh, sure. Actually, I think there's a lot of the threesomes are probably very. I mean, in general, having 2 people in love with one person or obsessed with one person, or one person on the outside of a relationship of 2 other people and wanting to be in. That's not an unusual scenario, and there are an awful lot of movies about those kinds. I think the personalities of the individuals are very sort of unconventional. However, that's really necessarily. That's about a threesome. Main character.
Stingo seems to be the point of view character.
Everybody okay with Stingo?
Yeah.
Okay. Influence character.
Mostly to be
Sophie.
Sophie, yeah. I mean, during the first half, I felt like them as a couple were the impact character, but obviously Sophie emerged as being the more important, impactful, influential presence.
The question is, as a couple, is that more of the overall story, or is that stuff that's affecting Stingo personally, at the personal level?
Somewhat.
Okay. You're saying the couple as influence characters is probably more part of the overall story?
I think so. I think the couple is part of the overall story, not so much the influence character. I do think there are probably scenes where a couple, not many, where the other character's name, Nathan, essentially performs that function. But I think for the most part, the one that seems to be capturing his imagination at that personal level seems to be much more because it's about starts off about sex. There's he's really the personal thing for him. His writerly thing is kind of like the big picture, but the hang-ups with as he was saying with the past and stuff like that, that seems to be a little more personal. But he's more than anything else, he wants to get laid. I mean, him as opposed to anybody else in the story is really concerned with that, and it starts off with about a bed, a poem about a bed. It ends with the same poem, and we have the girlfriend that's
He gave some phrases to it. Didn't he say about coming up to New York to get some life experience? And then
Yes.
there was a bookend phrase about life experience at the end. I forget what he said.
well, that's it. I mean, yes, it definitely wanted to get life experience because he needed to grow up. And he got a big dose of life experience. All right, and the relationship between Stingo and Sophie is unrequited love. I mean, it's definitely it's sort of a tragic romance. Not that she's unique. That's unique with her, but it is for him. All right, and before we go any further, let's talk about Sophie's choice. That entire thread of Sophie's backstory, because it's an awful lot of the movie. Do you have any thoughts about it at all?
Well, she kept it hidden. The story kept changing, and then the truth came out.
But think of it from a story structure point of view.
It could be its own.
What is it? How does that relate to what we're talking about here, about this love triangle? And we have, this writer, Stingo, and his obsession or fantasy or whatever with this sort of tragic.
Well, she's choosing between two men in present day, and then she had to choose. She made a choice.
Right. There were.
It was parallel.
Right. She had to make a choice. Exactly. But so what is that? Other than just being a parallel, is it a story? Is it a grand argument story? Is it purely backstory? Is it necessary? Apart from certain elements of it, but obviously there's a lot of detail and a lot's going on in there that is perhaps not necessary to the main story, right? I mean, it does give it the right texture, the right feel. It also misdirects and is used as a storytelling device, and an emotional storytelling device as well, because it's a real tragic story. The fact that she lies about it, that's something that's in the main story. Her hiding her past, absolutely part of the main story. But what particularly it is, which is sort of these stories that she's relating to Stingo, any thoughts about if it could be told on its own or not, or would it hold up as a story?
Sure.
Okay, and I mean by story I mean a grand argument story, a Dramatica story. So if so, she'd be the main character. Who would be the influence character?
The officer.
But the officers, which officer? And there's an officer is only in a very small part of it. What about all the rest of the story? She's got a husband, she's got a lover, there's all sorts of, there's an overall story. Clearly there's a series of events that
Well,
goes
you could,
on.
because you could do she had to decide whether she was going to help the resistance or
But she decided not to.
or save herself.
Well, early on.
Yeah.
So I thought that was Sophie's choice in the past and before I found out the new real Sophie's Choice, and then
Well, now, see, that's the thing is, now that you know what really happened,
Right.
that's the important part. Now that you know what the story is, not how it was presented to you, is apart from the having a sort of a main character moment where Sophie in the past had to make this, it was forced to make this terrible, terrible choice. Now, I mean, that's a really dramatic moment and kind of the reason for the whole movie. But, and it's an important point because it relates to the main story. But everything's, you know, the whole bit about, you know, the radio and the commandant and all that other stuff when she was, you know, doing secretarial work, you know, that really isn't at all related to it. And it just sort of is it really is sort of a tale of events strung together. So it's valuable.
Oh, I see what you're saying. There's the difference between Dramatica version or it being a tale.
Right. That's
yeah, it's a tale. Is that what you're saying?
Yes. Because I really. Sorry about that. So. Yeah. So I mean, I think it is a tale. It certainly could have been expanded into a story. I don't think there really is an influence character. You know, it's just an overall story and the main character protagonist. Well, it's protagonist, then main character a little bit, and then suddenly main character stuff. But that's almost the part that's really relevant to the main story. That's a piece that you need to make the main story work. Because it's followed on right after that with Sophie's other choice, which is she had a choice between two that she had to make a choice between. You know, and it was a life and death choice in that case as well.
Yeah. I wonder if in the novel it was a grander story.
Oh,
They just tried to.
yeah. Where it is in the story, who knows? You know, in the book, who knows? It's Thomas Tryon, so it'll Tryon, right? That's pronounced it now. He tends to have very long books, so so I would not be surprised. It was very thorough. Okay, so I didn't want all of that creeping in except where it was appropriate when we start talking about the story. So that's why I wanted to tease that out, because I think it's really important when you're thinking about this, what is part of the story and what isn't part of the story. Okay, so main character, so talk about Stingo. Main character resolve, change, or steadfast. Which is it and how do we know?
Well, he finally declared his love for her, so that was a change. That was he took action. He stepped up and removed her and made his declaration. So that was something he was not willing to do. He was too shy to do. So if it's a coming of age story in his regard, then that's a big step.
Okay, so that would imply that Sophie was a steadfast character, and if that's the case, how do we know that?
She went back to Nathan.
Yeah, she really never left him.
Yeah.
I mean, she left. They left because they were afraid that he was going to kill him. He was going to come and shoot him. But she wasn't leaving with the understanding of, oh, we're going to go and make, go live together, become husband and wife. It's like, oh no. Just like every other time, once Nathan was sort of back in the scene, there was no hesitation on her part to go back to Nathan once he was sort of down from his nutso high. Okay, so yeah, I would agree. I think your assessment's right. Main character approach to revere and why? you sort of gave a bit of the answer in your change steadfast. But
Well, I guess at first
this would be Stingo. Well, what is his preference?
he was a beer. I mean,
Well, don't say it like it's of course he's a beer.
uh,
I mean, yes, of course he's a beer, but
I mean, Nathan and what's her face, Sophie, they did all the activities, and he was a tag along. You know?
okay, but so where is there an instance where he is dealing with a personal issue that he approaches it as a beer rather than as a doer? Think of a scene that has nothing to do with Nathan or Sophie, because those are usually main character moments in this. There's some early on.
Well, let's see. He moves. He takes the action and moves to New York. That's
Well, we don't. Yeah, he arrives in New York. We're really not seeing the move, and I think that's the overall story. Is what sort of that's what if that didn't happen, then you'd have no story.
What about with that girlfriend at the beginning? Or
Yes,
she's like, let's do it, and let's not do it. And he's like, okay.
right. He's let's do it. So he's like, okay, and
Go along
he's
with
all
it.
expecting it, and he's expecting her to. Well, she's acting as though she's going to. Well, she is leading it all, and then of course, she only will go so far. But yes, that's his preference, is to let whomever else lead, especially sexually. When he's with a girl or with someone who, and then Sophie. I mean, he's staring and sort of just being. Remember, they're always the ones who are coming into the room, pulling him along. He definitely is just trying to sort of be the writer thing.
And Nathan's brother initiates that aspect of him learning something. It's not something that he earned on his own.
Right. So he's not inclined to question, and he doesn't even really question it. He just sort of accepts that, but he doesn't do anything, even if he was questioning it. Really, he just sort of sat back and observed more. So yeah, definitely seems to be a beer. All right. Problem solving style. Is he a more linear or holistic problem solver? And examples.
Does he solve any problems?
Sure. He's got the hots for Sophie, and he has this is girl, so yeah.
It's a linear
Because
he shows up with it's a great example, but he thinks if he goes to this girl, he's gonna get sex. I think when they're threatened with the gun, first he says he'll run away. He sees,
but who is the most linear thinker in the bunch?
I think Sophie is,
How so?
because she has wants something and she gets it. She has a standard as for the men, and the one that mostly adds up to that, what she wants, what she accepts.
Okay, I'm not sure that that's a cause-effect kind of way of thinking about it. I mean, certainly Nathan is very cause and effect. Whether or not it's founded it's a whole other issue. But I mean, in terms of the way he thinks, it's like I see you guys together, therefore you must,
What
you
about
must be sleeping with one another. So he's definitely very linear. Yes.
when she goes to look for the poem at the library or something? What was it?
Okay.
Is that a linear example?
No, because if she's trying to find the source of a poem, going to a library is
Logical.
How else would she find it? I'm not sure that's that's not sort of an approach. That's just sort of.
I guess it was more that she didn't understand.
Well, she was
Who she
given
was
wrong
looking for.
information, but she didn't know that it was wrong.
Right.
And she was given partial information because she was given Emily Dickens, which she doesn't know Emily Dickinson or Charles Dickens.
Right.
So she was and not getting any help from that librarian. She definitely seems, if I do this, then I will get that. If I can do this for you, and you will then take my son, or I will, she seems to be somewhat like that. Now, the problem with Stingo is, I don't know that he is a male mental sex. He's sort of, the only thing, when you're talking about him, it's sort of like, he kind of like, if I put myself in this sphere, then maybe I'll be swept into it. Or if I pull myself out, maybe I can stay out of it. That's a very holistic way of looking at it. The closest thing could be if it's if I write and I do a page a day, but there's none of that. There's nothing that's really very linear about him at all. If I take you down to the South and we can live together. Now, she's like, you mean, cause effect. You mean if I go down there? Okay, that's fine. But he's like, no, but we'd have to live, we'd have to be married. He's like, you didn't give me that cause effect. You just said we're going. So she's looking at things very linearly, and he seems to be looking at it very holistically, which is kind of why it feels it's kind of weird, because we seem to be so much into Sophie's head more than we are into Stingo's head. But he's kind of, he's sort of the voice of it, and we're following him, but we're not sort of being him so much. Certainly the Nathan Sophie couple is far more dynamic and interesting than he is. I think I would probably I'll put a dotted line, because I think he's probably more holistic than he is linear. I'll probably let the software pick that one, but that would be sort of the indicator. Now, the other thing is that, and I think it seems to be relatively clear here, but maybe not. His growth, does he seem to need to grow? He's a change character, so does he need to grow out of something or grow into something? Is he his own worst enemy, or is he's holding back and he needs to step up? It's the chip on the shoulder or the hole in the heart. Which one seems to be the indicator that makes the most sense?
He needs to step up, start, and expresses feelings and go after what he wants, instead of kind of being the extraneous third wheel.
Okay. You had sort of touched on that in your first answer. You basically covered the first three of these things. And I didn't want to just sort of rely on that, but you were like, ding, ding, ding. It's like, oh, okay, well, come back to it. So I'm not gonna hardwire it, but I think it pretty much seems like it's probably a start character. All right. Stray driver, action or decision?
I think decision. I think it's an action.
Okay, you said just both of them.
I said because of the title, one would you think it was a decision.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't hear that first part of it. Because all I heard was, I think it's a decision.
No,
I think it's action.
I think because of the title.
Ah.
But I think it's an action. I think the act breaks. Well, so he goes to New York, or he's in New York. Nathan comes back. That was like a state break. I remember.
Practically every time Nathan shows up
Comes back
after he's
to
gone,
Yeah.
that's time for a nice montage or an act
Right.
break. And then ultimately, they kill themselves.
Right.
Story's over. You know, whether or not he wants to, he's already, the main character through line's already over by then.
Mm-hmm.
He's already moving.
Yeah.
But this overall story, the threesome is no more once, they take the suicide.
Yeah.
So, so I definitely agree. I think it does appear to be an action-driven story.
Is that why he's sort of like uncomfortable in that environment? It's an action story, but he's more like
A beer.
beer.
Yeah. So he doesn't. He's very uncomfortable. He feels like he can't move things forward. Other forces or other people are always doing it, not him. And that's, I think, feels very consistent with how the story seems to develop. Okay. Story limit, time lock or option lock. Okay, there's no time lock, but that doesn't mean there's an option lock. If there is an option lock, what would it be?
I think it's all the times the friendship breaks apart and comes back together.
Close. It's not, this one's not this one isn't the number of times. It's more of the degree. Because each breakup gets worse and worse and worse until ultimately it's resolved. But I mean, the first one lasts a night, or it starts at the night, in the morning he's back and everything's normal. Starts getting, each one gets longer and bigger, and the manic depressive
How many
swings.
episodes can the friendship sustain?
Right. And because he's just getting progressively more violent, or more crazed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that's kind of more like that is more like what I would call a space lock. It's like going from here to there, and he's getting closer and closer and closer to there, like New York to LA, except in this case, you've got the state of relative normalcy to outright nutso and life, death, and you see the steps getting closer and closer toward that break. The brother is that indicator that, okay, I'm just letting you know, this is not just erratic behavior. It's bigger than that. So that was the importance of having the brother come in at that time, was to keep it from being just the same thing, same. It's like, no, it's not the same. This is, significantly larger. Because that's right after the big high of the, I read the book, you're the best thing since, since baked bread, and then.
And the discovery, too.
Right. So I think that's what that kind of option lock is. So it's a matter of degree rather than numeric. And then story outcome, success or failure.
Well, if it's coming of age.
That's the main character.
It's
This is about the overall. This is about the threesome.
Can't have a friendship of one.
Yeah, that's why the story outcome, not the main character.
Big failure.
Yeah, I think it would not.
Couldn't get much worse.
I could have burned down the house with everybody else in it,
I guess.
and shot Stingo. So it could be worse. But yeah,
Shades of gray.
it was. It definitely seemed to be a failure. And story judgment, good or bad?
Well, he was walking down the bridge. Well, he was quoting Emily Dickinson, I think.
No, that was when he was standing over the bed with the dead.
Yeah. I mean, if it's just that he resolves his stuff.
Well, look at just what is the.
Did you say it was morning? It was
It's
morning.
it's
and new day?
morning, and it was not judgment, but fair. Remember, that's what the whole thing about it, whether or not sort of like the judgment, is this the final judgment or is it, fair? And so it's actually good. And then they end with the very peaceful look on Sophie's face. She's no longer, they're both the tortured souls are no longer being tortured. Our main character has already grown up prior to them killing themselves. He's already found a good place, and you got the big sunrise, and so it's not a great, but it's definitely seems to be good, so it's on the better side than the worse side. That's where on all of these the matter of degree is variable. Sometimes it's success can be we achieved it, and the failure here in terms of the three, it was a pretty significant failure, but it wasn't a tragedy. It was tragic, but it wasn't a tragedy. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So then let's look at our domains and figure out where we're going to put everybody. Anybody we can start with whomever and whatever.
Well, personally, as I was watching it, I felt like, truth and falsehood really rang out, and memories, evidence, suspicion.
In what context?
In the context of the relationship. So I felt like the relationship resided in that area under memories, truth, and falsehood, which would put, I think, the main character under developing a plan, manipulation, or psychology.
The overall story and past.
Right, and situation past. Situation in that they were living, I guess they were living close to each other, and one of the things I was very unclear in the story was, how do they know who this guy is? Stingo. How do Nathan and Sophie know who Stingo is and what he does? They just,
They
all say the landlord seems to be a very blabber.
Okay, all right.
First letter they sent to him says, the landlord told us who you are.
Okay,
right.
All right, thank you. So
let's focus on, for the moment, overall story of situation. All right, so they are, since we're talking about a threesome, they're defined by their situation, which is you got one couple upstairs, the other one, the third wheel, right underneath them, all in the same location. All right. Dealing with the past, what elements do we see there that are consistent through the whole story?
Well, the past is revealed later on. The past is what's being covered. Everyone's suppressing both Nathan and Sophie. Even the the nympho girl. Although I don't know if she's really about the past.
No,
I guess.
but even Stingo.
His mom dying.
Well, yeah,
Right.
yeah. Single.
Right. They're all dealing with
No, no.
the past.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's where it's interesting because that's where the book is for Stingo.
He's 12 years old.
Right.
He's all-
It's autobiographical.
Mhm.
Well, I guess so.
Yeah.
All right. What other things? I mean, never troublesome past.
Yeah. Well,
Well, we know that Nathan basically was raised in mental institutions.
Mhm.
Sophie had a Nazi father, and she was probably a Nazi sympathizer herself. It's kind of unclear, although she wasn't even somebody who really even gave it a whole lot of thought, probably more than anything else. And because, I mean, she ended up having a Jewish lover.
Yeah.
Right. And then he was with the underground, but I'm not sure if he was Jewish. Certainly a sympathizer. And then, of course, Nathan, who is Jewish, obsessed with Nazis, past. And then their events, they do dress-up nights, and they dress up in the past.
Mhm.
You know, the Southern Belle and the Southern Gentleman and the 20s.
Yeah.
I mean, so they're just wallowing in the past. You know, so those characters just seem, and even the house, the husband, the ex-husband, the dead husband who bought this stuff wholesale. You know, the big pink palace.
Mhm.
You know, it's just a reminder of, you know, someone who's dead, and you know, so it's just, you know, and it's a Victorian. I mean, you know, so just like a lot of things are just all stuffed in there. Even the language professor who knew the father, you know, again, revealing more of the past. And then the flashbacks, that's where they're brought in to inform the relationship, but because that's where you have the memory, a bit of the memory stuff in the relationship. Particularly the false memories or the false revelations of the memory, false telling of the memories. Okay, so which puts Stingo as a beer in manipulation or psychology, which as they grow, coming of age, that's kind of where you would find that kind of a character very frequently. If they're a beer, certainly, and I would put her with a little bit of Nathan, pretty much an activity, which is, I think, pretty consistent. She definitely is someone who is the one who's rearranging the chairs and just to keep busy so she doesn't have to think. That is a doer's way of problem solving.
Oh, wow.
Because she wasn't doing it to make the room feel. Remember, she was doing it so she didn't have to think.
Mhm.
That's the difference. If she was trying to say, I had to get the room to feel the right way, which is what a lot of people, think their wives are doing. They got to move the furniture until it's like just right. This is the alternative to that, is I'm just moving things around so I don't have to think. That's a doer doing exactly the same activity, but for completely different reason.
After the incident on the stairs, and then Nathan walks out, she comes down and brings him dinner because they had invited him and he didn't come up. So I'm going to take him the dinner that we promised. Right?
Right. And ultimately, he becomes more of a doer. He's the one who finally puts the moves on her, and they have sex, and that's pretty much the end of the movie. Because that was the thing he needed to do. He needed to be able to take that next step and still want to leave. It wasn't like, okay, I made a mistake, I'm going to go back, I'm moving all back in. I mean, he didn't get a chance, but he really wasn't. It didn't seem like he was, when he was reading it, he wasn't like, oh, I got to go back. And, he was like, okay, well, Gotta find out what's going on. All right, everybody comfortable with that? So is everybody then also comfortable with the past understanding, memory, developing a plan?
Yes.
I mean, developing a plan of all of them, I think that's the one that worked absolutely best for Stingo because he's got a plan. I go to New York, I write all the time, right then I'm gonna get this book done, I'm gonna become very famous because of it. I mean, it's like,
You could tell there were things cut out too. The whole thing with putting the money in the Band-Aid tin, I thought they must have cut something out because
why?
I don't know. It just felt like that that there was a character point or a plot point that preceded that scene that obviously they didn't need. And anyway, so there may be more that we didn't see.
I thought it was primarily to show he doesn't have a lot of money.
Okay.
I mean, I thought that's what it was.
All right.
It was revealing but he had maybe $50. I don't even think quite that.
Mhm.
Meanwhile, Nathan's living high on the hog. I don't know exactly how, but where he's getting his funds, probably brother, but
By the
clearly
way,
not hurting.
His whole thing about since I missed certain parts, the whole thing about him, having this medical breakthrough, and then the landlady said, "Oh, I think he told me he found a cure for polio." That was all just fabrication, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
He worked in the library at Pfizer.
On
He was a librarian
okay.
at Pfizer, and occasionally they would ask him to do research for an actual product.
Okay, thank you.
So that was what the brother was revealing to Stingo.
Okay.
So yeah, he was pretty much a pony, but a charming pony,
I guess at moments.
dashing.
Only because he was played by Kevin Kline. That's the only reason.
Well, that was the movie I saw. I don't know that somebody else would like the same way.
Yeah.
Anyway, so let's bring up the computers and look at the remaining choices we have. Jim?
Yes, sure.
No problem.
Kevin Kline was brilliant.
It really was.
Unbelievable. I didn't know. I've only seen him in like A Fish Called Wanda and stuff like that. I've never seen him like this kind of thing.
Oh, really? Oh, yeah.
I had no idea.
I think this is kind of his break. Both Meryl Streep's and his breakout movies.
Well, Meryl Streep
Yeah,
on the Oscar
Streep was already in Kramer vs. Kramer, which we will be doing.
Oh,
Yes.
She won the Oscar for that.
Yes, she
oh,
did.
wow. That's why the Oscar appointment.
Wait,
No,
didn't
she
that
got
come
it for
after-
Kramer versus Kramer.
Didn't
She did?
Kramer came
And-
first?
Yes.
What do you got?
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah, I think Kevin Kline is who's taking this first.
At least it's my career.
And then Biscuit from Out in the Field. I was like, oh my god, I know that guy.
Oh, Peter McNichol.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Alan McBeal.
He's done a lot of it.
Yes, I know, but that's probably the most for people who are not as old as us.
Kevin Kline wasn't even nominated for this.
No.
Wasn't he Ghostbusters too?
What?
Oh, Peter, I think he might be.
That's what I know him from.
Peter
He's like,
McNichol?
he's like the curator or something.
Yeah, Ghostbusters 2.
Yeah, he's
Gosh, I don't think I ever saw that.
How was it?
It's like
Movie?
I mean,
Oh, I must have seen it, but it was
Oh,
completely
the
forgettable.
painting that comes alive.
yeah.
No, maybe I didn't see it.
Ghostbusters 2? Yeah, it was fun. It wasn't as tight as the first one, but it was okay.
Anyway, so-
Is anyone looking forward to the new Ghostbusters?
Oh, of course.
I'm looking forward to seeing Kate McKinnon, Bruce Jones. Sort of North Cat. This will be their first major movie.
All right. So we had change, star. Well,
It ends up being stars.
yeah,
We're gonna
that's
let
fear.
We're gonna let that decide.
Yes, we are. Action, option, failure, good. Overall story was station, concern, and the past. All right. Let's go to the theme browser. Kill one of those lines. Not we don't need to do both. All right. So do we want to do overall story or main character? All right. Let's look at overall story. So we're looking at the past, and we have fate, destiny, prediction, interdiction, which is a really good set for, I think, this movie. Knowledge, and then under fate, we've got knowledge, thought, order, chaos. Under prediction, actuality, perception, inertia, change. Under destiny, aware, self-aware, projection, speculation. And under interdiction, ability, desire, equity, inequity.
So my question about this is, since there's such a large chunk of the movie in the past, how much do we consider that versus considering the the present day story?
You weren't here for that
Oh, you were
discussion, I
good.
think.
Yeah.
Oh yes, you weren't here. None of it, except for the
Oh.
choice and the lie.
It's like a tale.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
so-
that
That's
was
what-
actually a part that you weren't in the room.
Sorry.
That's all right. No, that's why I covered it early on because it's a really important consideration. So, apart from the choice, which is really has to do with more with Sophie and their relationship, and the lies, which have to do with sort of the past, just sort of, it's more her remembrances of it being false or related false memories, in a way to manipulate the relationship, to keep the relationship going, because she's afraid that if she tells the truth, it's going to spoil the relationship, and so that's perfect. Why for it's a memory instead of us seeing it truly objectively. Anybody else? Anybody have an opinion?
Yeah.
Didn't somebody say something about fate brought you to me? Who said that?
That was in the past part, I thought, wasn't it?
I mean,
Seems
so
like actuality and perception.
Oh, I didn't see the whole thing because the whole holistic thing was really hard for me.
You couldn't get into it, huh?
To, could not get into
Just
it.
listen to the music. That's going to tell you how you're supposed to feel.
But even the first 30 minutes, I
First
did
45
45.
minutes.
I did 45.
45 minutes.
I'd seen her choice. I've seen that before. That's an awful scene. But like, wasn't there? He's like, "Oh, we're all gonna die." Like Kevin Kline was saying that to her. Like, there's a lot of prediction sort of feeling to
Yeah,
it.
it seems like I'm gonna die. She thought she was gonna die. She knew she was gonna die.
It seemed like just the short part I saw. So maybe that's just one chunk of the whole story. But saw that, and then if there's all these lies going on, all these people that have these like personas or images that they're trying to put out there.
Mhm.
Until the end, when you actually see everything that happens, it seems like it would be something like that.
It does seem that, and this may not be in the overall story. This may be with the impact character or the relationship, but knowledge, just suppressing what people know about her seems to be a really strong motivational element.
Except isn't it presented more like perception than not as knowledge? I mean, because it really does seem to be trying to keep up appearances.
Yeah, I mean, Kevin
And the
Conrad.
reality is this guy's a nutcase.
The brother
And
says,
she's in for her, trying to keep up appearances.
yeah, like,
In reality, she is a basket case who will never have children again. Who's complete damaged goods, and even the main character. I mean, the writer. I mean, he is trying to act all worldly, but he's a virgin, and he's never had. And the girl who is sort of pretending like she's swearing and all this stuff, but in reality, she's not gotten past the vocalization.
Okay.
Right.
All right. So then how does prediction versus interdiction then become the thematic argument?
Well, look, they're trying to save constant predict. The interdiction side of it is I'm constantly trying to save the child, the Sophie, the French. I mean, go ahead.
And him leaving her and stuff. I mean, isn't that
And
Nathan?
Okay.
And
This is doomed, so I'm going to leave you and then I'll come back.
Well, right, that's the prediction part. Yeah,
Oh, okay.
yeah. The interdiction is that you see the writers constantly coming in trying to intercede
Oh, yeah.
on Sophie's behalf. The brothers trying to intercede, sees where this is going, and if it's continues to get worse, it's going to lead to something really bad. The brother sort of comes in there and talks about that as well. So I mean, I think prediction does sound like, at a minimum, the issue. So let's try that and just see what the ramification of that is.
Okay.
So
That puts the relationship theme under evidence. Evidence versus suspicion, which actually I think that works pretty well.
yeah, it works really well.
Yeah, I mean, truth and falsehood play a very strong role, but
Well, I think those are the measure. That's how you determine whether it's evidence is true or false. That's how you evaluate the evidence for suspicions.
yeah.
So I think that is nice. The goal of the past, the consequence of memories, and as you see, it's a failure story. So it's all these memories basically destroy them, especially for Sophie. She's completely destroyed by the choice that she had to make her entire life ever since that. She even says in the last scene, she says, that, or he says in his voiceover, I think, is talking about sort of she drowns her memories in sensuality or something like that. So as a brief, essentially a brief escape,
Right.
before a final escape.
Right, but it's her memories that say, "I cannot be the mother of your children."
Right.
Yeah.
But that she could not possibly go there. that is a kid too far. No. All right, so let's go back and let's look at the main character. All right, so if for the main character, then if we chose actuality and perception as the problem and solution, then you have order and chaos as the symptom response. Or if you had inertia and change as the problem and solution, then knowledge and thought would be the symptom and response, right?
Yeah, it has to be a situation, right?
Huh?
Has to be situation, right?
I think so.
If there's anything
Um,
congruous with who he is.
well,
Mhm.
but can you give us definitions of situation and state of being?
Sure.
No, I know them, but
Logistic-
always helps to
For everybody listening.
Situation is a logistic assessment of one's environment. State of being is one's true nature.
More situation.
I think he doesn't. He's not trying to find himself.
Yeah.
I mean, he is, but he's not. I mean, he's not doing it in a. I'm trying to discover who I am.
But the situation is
because
he's
it's like
out of money. You know,
He's in his house with these.
Right. He has no
Throwing
money, and
away.
he's going and he's into this place that's expensive, and it's a long shot, and who knows how long he's going to be able to stay there. Right, and that's what he says in the voiceover at the very beginning. I mean, that's the setup.
mm-hmm. And he finds himself in between those two people.
Yeah.
Having to be the referee at times.
Okay, so we think
girlfriend.
so that would then make actuality and perception the problem, but perception the problem and actuality is the solution.
Well, don't you,
Actuality is
would,
the problem.
would chaos be the symptom and order the response? Where are we?
Well, chaos definitely seems to be a problem.
And then actuality would be the problem.
Shoot, I
Actuality.
wish I'd seen it.
No,
So I could say
perception
something.
is the
I
problem.
haven't seen
No, I mean,
enough to
doesn't
know.
he not know because he doesn't know the truth? The perception is wrong in every case. He doesn't know the truth about Nathan, and that his perception of him is wrong. He doesn't know the truth about Sophie, and his perception of her is wrong.
Yeah, I think it's the perception. Perceptions of the source of conflict. Yeah.
He has a perception he's going to go be a great writer, but it's not really.
Yeah,
But does that make sense? Order and chaos is
to me it does because you look at
Yeah, he's a very orderly guy.
Yeah,
And their chaos, and he needs their chaos.
Right,
in order
to make his life
grow.
Right.
right. He is basically so ordered and such nothing is going to really happen. He needs the Nathan popping in through the window and let's go out on the beach. That's what develops him as a person. All the chaos that they bring into his life is the thing that actually right. Well, right. Those think of it as spontaneity as opposed to necessarily chaos.
I think there's a visual example even when he's trying to spam. He's trying to keep it all orderly, and
Right.
good, and he has to have a chaos.
And then he's kind of like, oh yeah,
Yeah.
it loosens up
Yeah.
a bit. Yeah, it's not so.
I almost broke out by reading the cans. Spam
Spam a lot.
I'm really glad that you held back.
But you
Until
have it now.
now.
But you have it now while the recording is going.
Yes. Thank you for that. So, and the same thing here, the inertia being the symptom and the responses change. You see, I think that's the thing that is what Nathan actually responds to. He sees inertia as the thing that pushes him to take more drugs.
Mhm.
Because
They're not prosecuting the Nazis; they're getting away with it.
right, just the same old, and he just has to sort of change just to change. I mean, that seems to be his response to almost everything, but because
Changes his temperament. Changes his
As
clothes.
soon as he gets in a groove,
it has to change.
it has to change it. And she's cheating.
Yeah, this is his problem. Let's just put this title in here. And Stingo.
Why do you think they called him Stingo?
That was what he called himself.
Why would the author pick a name like Stingo?
So that she can mispronounce it.
Right, exactly.
But
My guess it's a Southern thing. I mean, seriously. I think it's just.
You think it might actually exist in the South?
Well, let Google.
there's probably a Wikipedia page about the original novel, and
Oh, I'm sure there is,
you know.
but we won't deal with that right now. All right, so now we're down to two choices. And of course, the problem-solving style. Isn't that interesting? I think it's interesting because
It's weird.
it's
That never usually happens.
no, it isn't. It doesn't. I think it's interesting because it's we were like, well, it's sort of a borderline thing. So let's see. For our main character, a unique ability of state of being or sense of self. That's sort of like a coin toss. How about critical flaw? Instinct and conditioning. If anything, I'd say conditioning, but
Is Southern conditioning?
yeah, but they're
It's really close.
huh?
Oh, they're really close.
Well, I don't see instinct. His instincts, I don't see much example of that at all. But let's look over in the influence character. So her unique ability, which would be basically her ability to influence him to change. Instinct and conditioning. Oh, interesting.
Weird.
I don't think that's very weird. Oh,
Now-
I guess it'll be instinct in one and conditioning in the other.
Look,
I don't think
they
for
were
her,
trying
I don't think
to
it's conditioning.
Yeah.
Wow, that's so weird.
Critical flaw. This is a really bizarre story form.
No, it's because of the changed story form. So there's a diagonal.
Yeah.
There's you see multiple
All right. So the
diagonals
catalyst
there.
is either fate or destiny. And let's do this. Let's go back to the. So fate
And that means the
is
relationship.
a
has
future
to be-
situation will befall an individual, or destiny, a future path an individual must take. So this is the thing that's going to.
Can we look at the relationship? Because that's where I think we'll see truth and falsehood. The same thing.
Right. Yeah, the
It's either
catalyst.
the relationship catalyst, or I guess one of those is the relationship catalyst, right?
Yes, one of these, either falsehood or truth. So what moves it further? What?
The false, I
Faster.
think if you're talking about what increases sparks between the two characters, the revelation that something that her stories were false.
That feels better. Let's try that. So let's just go here. Let's look at this is the catalyst, right?
Mhm.
So let's just try falsehood there. So we have a holistic inhibitor of fate, unique ability, sense of self, critical flaw, instincts.
Holistic.
Yes, as I said, it's consistent with our thought that he's a holistic main character, which our best Geiger counter for that is this one over here.
That's offensive.
Jim cannot sit through a holistic main character movie at
I
all.
like Moulin Rouge. I thought it was a great movie.
You know, Liz, how much visual activity is going on there? Eye candy.
Makes dance.
Yeah, try watching it 3 times.
Okay, maybe not. Maybe
You
not
know,
as much.
it's got a lot of entertainment value in there, including familiar songs. Once that stuff
What
wears
was
off,
the one?
I watched it once, and I will not watch it again. I'll watch a scene here and there, but I won't watch the whole movie.
The writer in Australia. What was that? What movie was that? I think she was holistic. I didn't
Oh.
see the whole thing.
My Brilliant Career.
My Brilliant Career.
Yes.
Yeah. That was one of the early ones we did.
Same thing.
Yeah.
I led
Get
that
it.
discussion.
so,
It must be holistic.
Okay, so
but his critical flaws instinct, which is kind of counter to your instincts, is that still feel?
well, again, I couldn't choose that. I mean,
He
I
doesn't
thought
have
conditioning,
instincts.
Well, his
It
social
just-
instincts are kind of off. His. You could make an argument that his instincts are kind of.
Oh well, if it ends in, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to.
Well, you're right. It does end in failure.
If it ends in failure, then his instincts kind of overrule, right?
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
and I see the end, but it seems like that's what it
His
is.
flaw-
And I think that in the critical flaw of state of being, her state of being being so messed up all the time.
Oh,
I think that really, does threaten her conditioning, which is she wants to be liked all. She has to be liked.
But also, I think that she spent, I guess, the last 2 years. I mean, if she was liberated in 45 and
It was 49?
no, it's 47.
47, yeah.
But still, she came to America. She spent the last year and a half or so trying to recondition herself, including conditioning herself to love this guy who is obviously abusive at times, and so I think it's potential strength, but I think it's but if she wasn't undermined by her critical flaw stated,
Right.
I think her conditioning or her attempt to recondition herself could be seen as a strength.
Right, but she's effective. Eventually he does change. She does change him.
Mhm.
She does enable him to change or help enable him. See, it's a failure story, but it is a change main character. So his sense of self, he finds who he is. That's what the whole thing at the end is when he's they're in the hotel room and he basically, I know who I am now. I know what I want. I want to move back to this farm in the South, and I want a wife, and I want you to be the wife. And she's like, no, I'm not going to be it. But he's going to go and get himself to move there and eventually find himself a wife. And he finally has found his sense of self. I think up to that point, he just really, the few times where he asserts his sense of self moves things forward for him, So I think that's, or his sense of self is built up because Nathan helps with that too. But good comments. So let's see, what do we have? We have a cost of understanding. I think you see a lot of the brother, the people in the house, certainly Stingo, there's a lot of costs there involved, including, with Sophie, she's, really comes to understand exactly how sick Nathan is and how dysfunctional she is, as does Stingo. The dividends, developing a plan. Well, I think that's
We developed a plan at the end of the movie. He knows what he wants.
right. That's the main character thing. I think the dividends here is that you've got along the way, they make plans that make them all really happy, and they do these different outings and things, and those are moments that are just sort of little pluses along the way. These little plans that they make. Requirements of the present. Have forewarnings, conceiving an idea. I think that's what the backstory is about. The conceiving an idea. In other words, there's this idea of this Sophie's choice that's being, and her relationship to the Nazis, or especially her father and all that. Her connection to that whole thing, which has been pretty hidden. That she seems to be going from the complete victim to her family being all victims to maybe not so pure to it's like I get an idea that this isn't as clear cut as it sounds. And that's really again indicates that it's not going to work out well. Because ultimately her revelation of that choice is the thing that pretty much drives her back into Nathan's arms, and for her she makes that choice. So our influence character: activity, concern of understanding, misunderstanding. Certainly, I think you get three. You can certainly see elements of that with that's where the name of the author misunderstanding over Emily Dickens. That's a little bit, misunderstandings between how Nathan, what her relationship is with, between what Nathan thinks her relationship is with Stingo or with whomever he happens to be focused on at the time, whoever he saw her with. Senses. She seems to be a very sensual woman, and including hearing, if she hears Nathan or she sees him or whatever, she's very responsive to touch and sight and sounds, and taste. Remember, even with the drink, so I think that's something that seems to be something that's the wine, right? That's in the backstory, but again, it's part of her through line, for sure. The problem of speculation. So the nature of Sophie's drive is it concerns an extension of possibilities into the future. So
that's addressed
marriage and
I can't be the mother of your kids.
Even marrying Nathan, when he proposed to her, she was
right.
She had to sit down.
Yeah, she was
not comfortable.
No.
With the prospect.
Inertia, a projection, but she never really satisfies her drive. But if she, an item, event, or process needed truly to satisfy Sophie's drive as it concerns an extension of probability into the future. I think if she looked at how likely, if she looked at the possibility of having a life with Stingo, the probability that something like what happened to her in her past would happen again, very low probability. So she could probably resolve that, but she doesn't go there. The symptom of inertia, so we've got inertia and change there, as well as the overall story. So she is pretty much in the same thing. Her things being the same is troublesome, and that she responds by trying to change things up. That's why they're a pair. She and Nathan are a real perfect match. Her unique ability, conditioning. Again, I think it's she's conditioned how to respond to people because she's trying not to. She's covering up a lot of things, so she has very conditioned responses. But her state of being belies really what she really is. Oh, I'm fine, and she's got bruises, and she looks like crap, or she's dying of malnutrition or whatever. It's like, no, not really. It's like, okay. and learning or gathering information is her benchmark. I'm sure.
Getting information.
Oh, yeah, it could be. Yeah, giving information. Absolutely. Yeah, that actually is a good way.
Learning more about her.
Right, that's kind of the giving information.
Teaching him about.
Right, see. It's the passive, not the active. Right.
And relationships, symptom of knowledge and responsive thought. Just wondering if,
well, that's what you were talking about.
Right.
It's exactly what you're talking about. In other words, they find out her father was a Nazi sympathizer, wrote the book on it, on the anti-Jew stuff. It's like, okay, we have a problem here, and then, think it through and discuss it, and here's what I think about that, and this is what I thought you were going to, why I didn't say anything. So like that's how it's sort of smoothed out. Yeah, and that's actually knowledge in the right through line. It fits what you were describing.
Yeah. I hoped it would
pop up somewhere.
And it did. Inhibitor of fate. We actually looked, that's one of our choices because we knew that if it was falsehood was the catalyst, then fate would be the inhibitor. That's kind of like, well, as fate would have it.
Yeah.
Oops.
Yeah.
Sorry, Stingo. And there's a crap load of contemplation in that through line as a benchmark.
Yes.
I mean, holy crap. You know, it's like constantly talking about relationship. This is, yeah. I think it soundly represents, oh, let's look at the signposts. Probably shouldn't, no. In the plot progression, and let's respond a bit. All right, so overall story, the present, to progress, to the future, to the past. Oh, wow. Okay. The present, him arriving, all the stuff that happens with the sort of welcome party, etc. And then the how things are changing one.
We're developing friendships.
Developing the friendship. This is you have the montage,
Right.
and then all the stuff with the book. That sort of brings, and then the future.
The future is the
brother
discovery and the
And and a proposal.
right. The
Yeah.
proposal part of that. The
They
brother, the revelation from the brother
they have
that
something coming that's going to be medical discovery.
right. And then the past is not only do we find out about the past, but also we find out that his past is. I mean, we sort of like we get into the sort of repetition of his past behavior, but it's gotten so much worse.
Yeah.
The big memories one is that in the relationship through line is in the fourth act, which I think is perfect. That's the Sophie's choice moment. And it starts off with the impulsive responses with the peeping Tomism.
Right.
And being a little creepy and just sort of
Yeah, going up to the.
just
That was weird.
yeah. And then the innermost desire, that's kind of, the, okay, I'm going to try to get that, it's that's where he sort of falls in love with them as a couple type of a thing, the sort of bromance, infatuation. And then contemplation, that's, where they're a lot more, they're talking about things a lot more seriously.
There's also like kind of like part, right? And he's going to leave.
Right, and then they have the big
And then-
conversation.
Yeah.
The huge conversation that is almost the entire act. Okay, comes in, he's got a plan, then playing a role, okay, I'll be the third wheel,
Yeah.
And then changing one's nature is like, okay, no, this is a lot more serious. I'm really starting to feel more. It's not just an infatuation. I'm becoming this person. I'm changing, and then the conceiving idea is that. Well, I had this, idea that. It's this with my father sent me this note a couple of weeks ago, and now this idea is taking hold that I can actually make this happen, and I'm okay with that, and I can move, I can leave New York, which is where I thought I needed to be, and that worked with him. And she goes, understanding, doing, obtaining, and learning.
Well, her whole visit at his door is all about, oh, please, please understand, he's not really like that.
Right.
Please, understand. I have
It's a
trouble with the
misunder-
language.
misunderstanding.
Right.
Yeah.
And then let's go on all. Let's do these fun things together. Then the third act is, her being a possession. Nathan's possession. And also a little bit about not really wanting to be she doesn't really want to be a possession. And then the last part is that basically she is she basically learns his plans as well as he learns a lot more about who she is. So
Now she can't.
right. Okay, well that's okay too. Any questions or thoughts or comments or happy days? Excellent. Thank you. So next month we have something fun, please.
Another Meryl Streep.
Oh, God, right. Yeah, Kramer versus Kramer.
What's
really
that?
Well, and then we're
I
going
didn't
back to World War
think-
II the month after that. Stalag 17. Back to the camps.
Good choices. It's a happy year.
These were mostly your guys' choices.
Look at me. I picked short term. Well,